full of clowns. They're all stupid and they're proud, painted smiles on their mouths. I don't hang with bozos, homie, I can't be around.
Hello, everybody.
Rise up, can't let them divide us. You and me, we can burn this world down.
Drew Dat here for Drew Dat Underground, Breaking Rocks, episode 84, the top 10 talk show hosts. Joining me, this gentleman. And that wasn't very gentle of you.
Yes.
So,
And gentleness is sometimes not my strong point.
So should I really call you a gentleman?
Yeah, well, I usually am.
Not to the woke.
Yeah. Well.
Yes, this is Breaking Rocks 84, top 10 talk show hosts. We spent a little while putting this list together. And then Nord came over the other day and helped finish it.
Yeah.
So
yeah, and it was, I mean, it's a complex topic, and I was trying to get into the ins and outs of it, but it's like you were saying, this is kind of supposed to be kind of more biased toward your likes, and so there's a little bit of distance between what's most liked by you on this list and what's most popular or what's most impactful or even culturally relevant. So that was what people should understand about the list, I suppose.
Yeah. So with that being said, you ready to get into number 10 here?
Yep.
So now keep in mind, folks, that this isn't necessarily just what it says on the thumbnail. Our favorite talk show hosts, that is the case with some of these. Some of these are just because they are the most entertaining, or we just genuinely like them, i.e. favorite, or they're actually really good at what they do. So with that being said, at number 10, we have this gentleman, Dick Cavett, at number 10. Bro?
Yep. Sure. So for a lot of people, especially in the mid-1970s, for a serious sort of daytime talk show, interview sort of show, his Dick Cavett show was basically the standard and kept up with pretty much every competitor. I mean, it was one of the most popular shows, and in fact, some of the most historical interviews, that we look to of that period, the Nixon era, as they call it, the mid 70s through the mid 80s. Dick Cavett was pretty popular, and definitely worth a mention on this list. I mean, obviously, he's not somebody that the younger generations have any clue of, or any any knowledge about. But
even I had to go look and remind myself who he was.
Yeah, and the thing is that's going to be happening more and more and more and more and more.
Yeah,
and it's something I try to fight against. I try to, at least for myself, I try to remember that, just because I was, not born in those days doesn't mean I don't deserve to have any interest in what was being presented and what was being said and what was going on.
Yeah.
It's a very important part of educating yourself is to understand things about life and times before you were alive. And not just live in your own era, but actually have some, historical understanding of your own before your own time. And Dick Cavett is one of those ones that is definitely relevant to this particular list. So I felt like insisting that we include Dick because, I mean, you can't really have this conversation without at least mentioning the guy.
Yeah. So, with that being said, Dick Cavett, as you said, was competing with like the likes of Johnny Carson.
Sure, yeah, no, he wasn't trying to be as funny as Johnny. Johnny obviously was a
No.
comedy show for the most part.
Yeah, and as you said, sorry, off camera. Johnny was Mr. Hollywood for talk shows.
Well, yeah, and then Johnny Carson's was the A standard. It still remains pretty much the A standard for late night. So,
Yeah.
yeah,
And Dick was the intersection of everything else.
Dick was the straight shooter sort of daytime, more daytime type presentation, and definitely not trying to be funny necessarily.
He was just trying to be, entertaining, but also informative at the same time.
I
Kind
mean,
of like us with Breaking Rocks.
the same thing you'd get with Maury Povich. I mean, really, straight to the point, sort of more serious topics, more serious interviews, more, other types of
Yeah.
celebrities, not just comedians or not just, entertainers.
Politicians as well.
Correct. Famous people, musicians, politicians, even the, authors and philosophers and writers and news people and all
Yeah.
sorts of different people that he'd be having on there. It wasn't just comedy.
Yeah.
Because I mean, everything Johnny Carson did, even with his serious guests, was it leaned more into comedy, even with the serious guests.
Yeah.
Johnny was always trying to make the crowd laugh. A laugh a second is what he was trying to do, and that's some shows were like that. But at other times, there's some. There was some other type of content there that wasn't exactly comedy, but that's what Johnny always tried to do. And Dick wasn't like that. Dick wasn't always trying to be funny. Dick was trying to be serious most of the time. Like you said in that clip that you watched about Dick's show where, Don Rickles was cracking jokes. I mean, that's Don. That isn't Dick. So, but in the case of Johnny, it would have been Johnny and Don both doing it.
So with that being said, at number 9, as you and I agreed upon, we have it's the wrong button. Here, share screen, not share code for stream. Because that's the last thing we need right now. Morton Downey Jr. at number 9.
Yeah, it's hardline conservative firebrand show. Basically, Jerry Springer for conservatives. If anybody ever remembers getting around to watching his show, he didn't pull any punches, and the networks were very, very pissed at him on multiple occasions, and he had various scandals and all sorts of. I mean, basically, like I said, it's like Jerry Springer but conservative and political. You know what I mean? So
Yeah.
he was worth mentioning because especially in the late 80s and 90s, and even through the 80s, I should say, his show was rather popular. But he definitely was I don't know what you call it, a hand grenade of a talk show host in the middle of daytime television.
However, I do want to remind people that the names on this top 10 list may not necessarily be ones that you would have on a top 10 list of talk show hosts. So with that being said, yeah, some names are going to surprise you that we have here. Like probably Morton Downey Jr.
Yeah.
And a couple others along the way, I think, as well, like at number 4. But if you disagree, say so in the comments, and then tell me what your top 10 would be.
Yeah, we like input. Whatever input is
And we also like it when people piss off the network executives here in the underground.
Yeah, especially these days, but they never do.
Yeah.
So.
Yeah, the only people that most late night talk show hosts piss off today is the viewers.
Yeah. Well, I mean, yeah, it's basically they're just towing the line. There's no edgelords at all on late night at all. There's nobody who's that funny. There's nobody who's edgy. There's nobody who's frankly interesting, even if you ask me.
There might be one.
I can't even deal with, and well, I know you mention him, but
But
I
we will
can't even
talk
deal
about
with the
him
late night
in a
hosts
little
these
bit.
days. Like you can, like if you're a not politically possessed leftist, you can't even barely watch the late night show hosts for like 20 minutes without getting insulted. Not only your intelligence insulted, but also you're basically given a middle finger by the host of the show for being bad. Like that's what you're gonna get.
So
They can't help it. They're told not
Yeah.
to help it, so they don't.
Well, actually, I take it back. There's two guys this guy we're about to talk about does tend to ruffle feathers at the network that his show is on. By the way, it's also on YouTube, so don't even watch it on ESPN. But are you ready to piss off some wrestling fans by talking about this guy, bro?
Sure. Sure.
At number 8, one of those names that will surprise you, we have the one and only Pat McAfee.
Yeah.
And as I said, yeah, the Pat McAfee show is on ESPN, but it's also streamed live on YouTube. Go watch it on YouTube. Fuck ESPN.
I would say this one right here is one of the ones that leans heavily toward the presentism issue. And so, like, he's currently popular. He's been popular for a while, and he's definitely more in the sports realm.
And he also tends to not piss off his fans, occasionally ruffle feathers at ESPN.
Because, I mean, you could, if you were going to talk about, like, specifically in that sphere, you could mention, like, Colin Cowherd, or you could mention, like I had mentioned before, Jim Rome. You could mention a whole bunch of different people. Stephen A. Smith. I mean, there's a lot of different people you could bring up in that sphere.
Yeah, maybe, but Stephen A. Smith is just annoying to me.
No, of course. That's why I'm saying this one right here presents the bias thoroughly right here, because if we were to simply bring in this category and say who is like most popular or who's most like highly rated in the sports talk category, it really wouldn't be him, but because there's a quality issue with some of the other ones, we lean a little bit away from them. And that's what I would say about this one.
And speaking of Pat McAfee, he is going to be doing his draft special like he does every year. I'll be watching it when the NFL draft happens on Thursday night for the first round. Hopefully our Arizona Cardinals actually do something to help fix the team. But if I hold my breath, I'll be turning blue, then purple, then black, then red again, and then...
Yeah.
But as we said, Pat McAfee, entertaining, built his fan base from the ground up.
Yeah, definitely not leading the charge in terms of popularity, but still a sort of an immoderate zone of quality where you can sit there and say, he's a serious guy. He doesn't say stupid shit. He's not trying to get clicks. He's not doing any of that biz.
And he's also not engaging in stupid political statements like Stephen A. Smith and whatever else. Pat McAfee's just trying to be there just to talk about sports, and that's that.
Yeah.
And that's all he and the Hammer Dom boys want to do.
Yeah.
And I respect it. Because I don't want to talk about politics either, but I fucking have to sometimes.
Yep.
But
and especially considering the talk show realm has gotten overblown by the podcast realm, and this is where the other blending that we were worried about or talking about and weren't sure whether we would let it blend and just go with it, because the talk show era is kind of over and the podcast era
we do have one podcaster in here, but with all this talk about podcasters, that gives me an idea for a future top 10 here for us to talk about on Breaking Rocks in the future. The top 10 podcasts or podcasters.
Yeah, no, I mean, we could do even more than 10 because there's so many. So, I mean,
and there's a lot of people that deserve to be talked about there, like Jules and Cat Turd, Joe Rogan, Friday Night Tights, Gary Beekler, and Adide Cobra, and those guys, and many, many, many more. For sure.
you know, the list is really long. So to even make a top 10, you would start to have to exclude people that you probably don't want to.
Yeah.
Things would get a little crispy real quick on that one.
Yeah. So before we get to number 7, let's do some honorable mentions here of people that didn't make the top 10.
Yeah.
People like Rush Limbaugh.
Sure. And then the reason I kind of preferred to not have him in this list is because while he was talk radio, we kind of didn't want to venture too much into that either, because again, that's a whole third list you could make if we were just talking radio show hosts.
Yeah. But our history with Rush Limbaugh was we used to, when he was alive, listen to him on the radio basically every day, in the car, in the house, wherever we were, whenever he was on. Bro? Are you still there?
Yeah, I'm here.
Okay.
Yeah, I mean, obviously he was one of the most popular radio show hosts in American history, in the political realm. That's the thing. Like, we have this sort of blurred line situation where when we're talking about talk show hosts, we're kind of almost forced to include some radio because it's what it was. It's just a different forum. And
because when it came to talk shows, first they were on radio, then we could see them on TV, like with Johnny.
Yeah, well, I mean, in the case of Johnny was, to spend a little bit of time as broadcaster, but he went right into television, like real quick.
Yeah. But that's the thing that I'm talking about. Before TV, everything was on the radio. You didn't see anyone. You just heard them. And then TV was invented, then suddenly talk radio became the talk shows that Mom grew up with, like Johnny Carson and so on.
Well, I know, but then there was a second radio. The radio era never ended in a way, in a sense.
True, but TV dominated it.
Yeah, no, I know, and there's a question of what gets eyes and what gets ears and what gets attention. Obviously, when TV shows came around, in the 50s, suddenly everybody was glued to their television watching television shows.
Yeah.
But the radio endured.
Kind of replaced the radio to a point, but
it took away
people never stopped listening to it, though.
It took away some of their audience, and obviously that went from everybody listening to the radio to suddenly half the population watching television and the other half still listening to radio.
Kind of like now, radio people still listen to this day, talk radio. Some still watch late night talk shows. Why, I don't know, but they do. And a majority of people, mostly younger crowd, and then us, also listen to and watch podcasts.
Yeah, well, like I said before, this we're in the podcast era for sure. Yeah. I mean, technically, you can listen to podcasts on the radio. Yeah, and there's sort of a blend there, obviously. Uh-huh. Like XM satellite radio always has podcasts and whatnot. And that's been true for 20 years.
And then you can watch them on Twitch, YouTube, Rumble.
Sure. And we have social media video sharing sites galore. NX, yes, which is a hybrid of if anything. It's like an all media presentation. It is the new media, practically.
When it's working.
Yeah. But as far as radio goes, radio has endured because it is one of the fastest, freest forms of communication in mankind. Like, you can speak to everyone on basically the entire half of the earth that you're on with radio without any real interruption. And so the radio is going to endure, and it has endured, and it'll probably outlive some of the other media forms, honestly, just because of its utility. But our modern era is a complex little thing here, and radio hosts don't get, even though they obviously move towards focusing on people listening when they can't be watching a television, like in their car, for instance. At least that was true for a long time. And then suddenly it stopped being true even now, that you could technically actually watch in your car, because now we have phones that you can basically pretend like it's a television. The development of the smartphone revolutionized anyone's ability to watch media anywhere at any time, in any format. You could listen to a radio show, you can watch a television show, you can watch a movie, you can watch anything. You can film yourself, you can broadcast a live stream of yourself to the whole world from your little device anywhere you are. As long as you got connection, you can do it. And so everything is different now than it used to be in that regard. Media presentations are completely different. The traditional, 1960s, 70s, 80s, 90s talk shows are all dead for the most part. They try, the ABC, NBC, CBS networks try their desperate little selves into a tizzy, trying to make sure that their daytime talk shows stay alive. But they've lost so many viewers to the podcast era and to social media sites and to live streams online that it's a wonder they're even alive with how much money they lose presenting these shows. So that's why I say that the talk show era is pretty much over. The podcast era is, has been for the last at least 8 years, maybe even 10. The podcast era took over. And has been dominating the entire airwaves and space completely. And so that's why we aren't really able to exclude podcasters from this list, because the only way we could do that is if we basically went back more than 10 years and had this entire list be shows older than 10 years ago. Which nobody wants to talk about that shit. At least not in our audience, I don't think.
Well, who knows? If you guys can tell us in the comments what you guys think on what Nord just said there.
I mean, obviously there will be people who do it, but I'm just saying that obviously the podcaster audiences are a newer audience, a younger audience, an audience that wants to be visually entertained and audibly entertained, and wants, engaging topics, and wants something like, if you're going to talk about historical things, you want some insight to be given. You want some like unknown information or new information or some sort of insight that they didn't already have into the topic. Otherwise, it's just, elbowing the audience saying, hey, you remember that? You remember? You remember? Like they don't. Yeah, they're like, we do remember, yes, and we don't care to talk about it.
Kind of like with Mom and I when the idea of, sorry, like Mom and I were talking about off camera at that point, obviously, because she's never on camera with us or doing this with us, but she brought up the idea of this to me by way of us having a conversation of the golden era of late night talk shows. And then that's when it hit me to do this list and this episode of Breaking Rocks.
Yeah.
But with that being said, one more honorable mention before we get to number 7. Dick Clark.
Yep. Which many don't understand him to be one of these types, but he actually kind of was in multiple different parts of his career. Everybody just thinks of him as, Mr. New Year's Eve. But
and National Bandstand.
He did a lot, and National Bandstand. He did a lot of programming outside of those things, and he was absolutely an entertainer in this realm and in this vein
and
for decades.
Wasn't he also a part-time voice actor as well?
Sure. Well, yes, he did. He did a lot of things. It'd be hard to stuff him in one box because he was in so many different, parts of entertainment.
So then you'd have to stuff him in multiple boxes then.
It's just that you wouldn't be able to really exclude him from a list like this just because of how much work he did in this realm too.
Yeah, but with all the names that we got in the top 10,
Yeah.
He unfortunately had to be an honorable mention.
Yeah.
But with that being said, at number 7, we have this ginger, kind of funny gentleman, Conan O'Brien.
Yeah.
Late Night with Conan O'Brien, and also for a brief time, he had the Tonight Show for a brief time. Bro?
Yep. And they did the little switcheroo and were trying to push Jay Leno out.
Yeah, and then they wound up putting, who's hosting it now?
They put Seth Meyers.
Oh, God.
Yeah, no, it's been, and then Colbert. He's had, you know,
Yeah,
his little way into late night.
yeah, his bullshit with the vaccine crap.
No, I mean that was his own show. But
Yeah.
yeah, I mean, the big, most notable, popular, current era late night hosts are all garbage to me. I really people would not be able to sit there and say that my personal preference had much parallel to what's popular.
Yeah.
But and Conan is definitely a spot where I almost wouldn't even include him if it were me, just because he's in that fold of guys that are the mainstream overrated douchebags. And I don't hate the man. I just think that he's been a bit of a pick me in this category for a long time.
Uh-huh.
He's, suffered not receiving the blessing of the networks like he wanted to receive. And maybe that in some way makes him a bit of a victim. I don't know, but
So you're saying he was the redheaded stepchild of talk show hosts?
I think it's the looks. I mean, I really think it comes down to the fact that he's less marketable than someone like, Colbert or someone like Leno.
Yeah, but he's not as funny and as marketable.
Then there's that.
Leno,
yeah, too.
But he's miles funnier than Colbert will ever fucking be.
Yeah, no, there's a lot of late night hosts that are not funny at all.
So compared to what we have now, for me, the ideal host, based on what they have now for the talk show circuit, is someone like, and this is the bottom of it for me, for my standards, is Conan O'Brien. But anyone above it would be even more ideal to be the face of late night. Further up the list we go here, right? Bro?
Yep.
But as far as Conan O'Brien, I enjoyed watching him. I watched him almost as much as I watched Jay Leno when Jay Leno was hosting The Tonight Show.
Yeah.
He was entertaining enough to hold my attention, was Conan O'Brien. But then the further up the list we go, the more and more it's, I don't care who's on the show. I just want to watch the host at that point. I don't care who his guest is. And you will get that probably mostly from 3 up. Those are dead ringers for that statement. So with that being said, another honorable mention, let's see, Daniel Tosh. Tosh.0.
Sure, and then this is a category, another kind of subcategory I wasn't sure whether we should include or not, but because like if you include this category, since this is bringing in Tosh, is bringing in the straight up stand-up comedian category.
Yeah.
Who also may have had a show at one point.
Yeah.
Now in that category, in that category, you have all sorts of people. In that category, you got Jon Stewart. You do have the original Colbert Show. You do have all sorts of comedians who got their own show.
You also have Talk Soup, which is also another honorable mention, hosted by
Joel McHale. Yeah.
Uh-huh.
Yep. Joel, I think. Well, I wasn't originally hosted by Joel, but yeah, the Joel version was the best one.
Yeah, that was originally hosted by what's her name? She's doing Whose Line Is It Anyway now?
Yeah. But this is
Whatever.
the category where we'd say primarily comedians, but also happen to get their own show, sort of a thing. And there's a lot of crowding in that section too. Because I mean, technically, guys like Joe Rogan were a stand-up comedian, just a stand-up comedian once upon a time. And like you were going to mention, you probably will mention Colin Quinn, for instance. Same deal.
Tough crowd, yeah. I remember watching that.
Colin Quinn was nothing more than a stand-up comedian until they gave him a show.
Mm-hmm.
And I mean, you could even, in this category, you could almost even include guys like Lewis Black, where, I mean, he's had shows, he's had his stand-up.
Yeah, but he was way more popular. His shows weren't as popular as his stand-up.
Sure, and then the one that...
kind of why I didn't mention him.
And then the one that comes to mind, which dominates this realm of crossing over from stand-up into talk show, is Bill Maher. He is
there is
basically
name.
He's basically the A pinnacle of this type of person.
Yeah.
He has been the most successful stand-up comedian crossover into talk show host ever.
And even more so now that he's using common sense when he talks on his show to a point.
Well, no, I mean the man is a, if you can use this phrase, a common sense progressive, a guy who is a progressive and has his personal lean to the left, in some cases hard left, but he doesn't like bullshit. He doesn't like dumb shit. He doesn't like funny business.
So he's not one of these progressives that I would call a regressive. He is a legitimate progressive.
He doesn't like illogic. He doesn't like conundrums, hypocrisy, and stupidity. He doesn't like it when people are playing social games. He likes it when people just say, here's what I believe in, here's what I want to do, here's what I think will work, and here's how we're going to do it. That's what he likes. And he just likes it to the left. A guy like him is actually very dangerous to conservatives and the conservative movement because he is effective as a leftist. He is the type of guy who will bring people from the right to the middle and even over to the left in some cases. Because he's reasonable, he makes his points, he lays it out. He might be wrong on something, straight up wrong, but he is never unreasonable or obnoxious about it.
And he's willing to talk, though. That's the key.
He does appreciate free speech, which is very important. Not everybody on the left does, and he definitely does.
And he's a rare breed on the left for sure.
Yeah, and again, and a rare breed in this particular topic too, because again, he is. I mean, aside from maybe Jon Stewart, he is like the most successful comedian to cross over into talk shows.
But speaking of comedians crossing over into something, at number 6 we have a guy who's a comedian. He is a commentator on a certain sport, and also he's a podcaster.
Yep,
I'm talking about the one and only Joe Rogan. I almost said Joe Cronin. That's a YouTuber podcaster, completely different.
Sure, and so this is
he's not as famous as Joe Rogan either.
This is the section where we touch on the pinnacle of podcasting. This is basically, I mean, he is basically, both when it comes to viewership, revenue, and popularity, the absolute king of podcasts in the world.
In terms of viewers and popularity, yeah, but if I'm putting together a list, I probably would have him at 3.
No, I know that. I'm not saying like the best. I'm just not pound for pound. There are other people that beat him, but when it comes to the amount of viewership, the amount of revenue, the amount of high-end guests, interviews that were impactful, I mean, he literally altered the course of the previous election with, the interview he did with Trump. I mean, he's been very impactful in the past
Mhm.
10 years. Like
Oh,
his
yeah.
show has been the premier podcast on the internet for
And
a decade.
and also his work with UFC as a commentator as well.
Yeah.
And also he's a stand-up comedian as well too. So
No, I know. And again, this is where we'd say he's the most successful stand-up comedian to cross over into podcasting ever.
Mhm.
And it's
Mhm.
not close even. There's
I know.
very few people that have come anywhere near that level that he's at.
Yeah.
I mean, just the other day he was there at the White House. I mean, you don't see that with podcasters, man.
And that kind of broke the internet a little bit too.
It's just that in this case, I would never consider Joe Rogan my favorite podcaster. He really isn't.
No.
But I also can't sit here and say that he isn't on the top of the hill. He's the one holding the flag at the top of the podcaster hill. He really is.
Yeah. And in my opinion, that flag says Friday Night Tights on it.
The flag says freedom of speech. The flag says podcaster freedom of speech. That's what it says.
That too.
I mean, there are many people who deserve to be there up there on Mount, whatever you want to call it, with him, who
Mhm.
deserve to be the most popular podcaster in the world. And they're not. But he's there. He is the one who is the most popular podcaster on the planet.
Yeah.
And he's a former comedian. So this is, and his show does classify as a talk show. It happens to be sort of in the combination, the hybrid, sort of in the blend, originally in the blend between radio and podcasting. Initially,
Mhm.
it started out in the blend between the radio and podcasting, and now it's a full blown, high-end presentation with, A-list guests and stuff, and hard-hitting topics and politicians, and it basically runs the gamut for everything.
Yeah.
If you can't find at least one episode of Rogan that you really enjoyed, you aren't looking.
So
So.
with that said, one last honorable mention before we get into the top 5. Gary Beekler, Nerdrotic, Friday Night Tights.
Sure, and this one is just sort of a heavy favorite in the podcast realm for us. Obviously,
Yeah.
This is a guy and a team of people that we really heavily watch and follow and sub to. And so
Yeah.
him and his crew are basically the top notch for us personally in terms of quality. We consider his podcast and his shows to be the absolute pinnacle of quality on the internet.
Yeah. Every Friday for a long time, it was almost a religious rite to Friday Night Tights is about to turn up. Be on, click. Let's start watching.
It's definitely been has been the best quality Friday night show podcast on the internet for years. So,
Yeah, like close to 10 years now, I think,
Yep.
at this point.
So for us, that was definitely worth a higher ranking.
Which is longer than this channel has probably been in existence or close to it at that point. But with that being said, as again we said, shout out to Gary Beekler, Friday Night Tights, D-Day Cobra, Jeremy, Heel vs. Babyface, Chrissy Mayer, X-Ray Girl, and
The whole G&G.
Chad, everybody.
Yeah.
And especially to all of the Nerdrotics as well.
Yeah, comics and Midnight's Edge, Midnight. What's that other one?
Even though John Connors Jr. from Midnight Edge has not been on there for like a few years now. But yeah, Midnight's Edge does deserve to be mentioned with that too. But speaking of mentions, at number 5, probably one of, like, in terms of viewership by us and our family, this guy would probably be number 2 in terms of the late night talk shows that we've ever watched. And he's also a former stand-up comedian. I'm talking about the one and only Jay Leno. Bro?
Yep. Oh yeah, no, I mean this Jay Leno would be for me the best late night host of all time. Aside from Carson, of course, it'd be like the second to Carson. He
I
would be
was
the
going to
best,
correct you there.
the best late night host in the modern era in the
In
recent
ter-
40 years.
In terms of our generation, the millennials, or as
Yeah.
I prefer to call us, Generation Y, because that seems more fitting for Bro and I. Why? Because like Stone Cold Steve Austin's catchphrase was, "What?" Ours should be, "Why?" And that's generally the question that we should always, and we do tend to always ask. Someone says something, and enter Nord and myself going, "Why?" I want you to go do this over here. Why?
Yeah.
I need you to stop talking. Why?
In the case of Jay Leno, I think again, this is like to say that you wouldn't include him at the top. I mean, it's again fair to have Johnny there, and obviously we'll go over that. But
Yeah.
if you were to exclude the older days, the days before we were born, if you excluded those guys, then Jay would sit at the top or near the top.
Mm-hmm.
Because you have the popularity level, the longevity, the comedy level, the respectfulness that he had for his audience, the amount of content, the true greatness of his show for years.
Jay Leno is the Johnny Carson of our generation. Full stop.
Mm-hmm. And there are people that always preferred Letterman. I never did.
Neither did I.
Because to me, Letterman was never funny. He was the unfunny guy of that era, to me.
Yeah. And it was kind of a dark day for late night talk shows when they got rid of Jay Leno.
Mm-hmm.
Because in our family, we felt like, well, an era has come to an end, like when Johnny was not doing the late night talk show anymore.
Sure. Whenever big name late night guys had, went away and stopped doing their show, it was always impactful culturally. So.
And now I know that Stephen Colbert thinks that people think that way about him. Nobody does, asshole.
I mean, I'm as unnostalgic about Colbert as I am nostalgic about Jay. I would like to forget the Colbert era entirely.
I'm nostalgic about Stephen Colbert, like I'm nostalgic about the flu or cold that I just had.
Yeah, no, I mean,
I'm glad it's gone.
It isn't gone. That's the problem. But
well,
I mean, it isn't quite gone yet, but it almost is.
Settle down. It will
like your cold. It's almost gone, but not really, not quite.
Matt Morris is live.
Yeah. The Colbert and the Seth Meyers and the John Olivers of today are utter dog shit by comparison to Jay. So.
Yeah. But at number 4, a controversial name, I think, in the late night talk show circuit, because his show didn't last very long. But in terms of entertainment value, former stand-up comedian turned talk show host turned stand-up comedian again turned political commentator pundit, former liberal turned conservative, Dennis Miller. So you ready to piss off our dad who hated this guy?
Yeah. Dennis was another one of the ones who started in stand-up and ended up in SNL, where he basically gained most of his notoriety and fame.
Yeah.
And pretty much everybody remembers his SNL work.
Mm-hmm.
And that led into this category also of being more of a talk show host.
Yeah,
Even though he never really committed,
Dennis Miller Live.
he never really went away from stand-up comedy, obviously,
Mhm.
but he did do the talk show circuit pretty thoroughly.
Mhm.
And it's all based on sort of a persona. And this is one of those people, like, you know, like we always say with Gilbert Gottfried, for instance, you could never tell what the persona versus the reality was. And there's probably a difference between them, between how he is for the rest of his, you know, inner circle and his family and everybody, and how he is to the public. This is very normal and natural for comedians and presenters, because Gilbert Gottfried was that way.
We'll get to you in the live chat in just a second, bro.
But the thing I was going to say about it is that Dennis was always funny, but he was dense with the, you know, his circumlocution, as we say. His linguistics was always dense. His way of putting things was always extremely complicated and wordy. And
that's probably why our dad didn't like him, because he had no clue what the hell that Dennis Miller was saying. But that's what made me laugh, because he made me think of, like, what does he mean by that? Oh, it's that very obscure thing way the fuck over there that not a lot of people are going to know. So it's going to fly over 90% of people's heads, like our dad.
Sure. Dennis was the kind of guy where you'd either not get the reference to what he was referring to, or you'd get the reference and think it was brilliant. Basically nothing in between.
Yeah. There was no in between with Dennis with that. It's either you get it or you don't. And if you don't get it, you're not going to like him. If you do get it, you're going to think that he's the most intelligent comedian on earth.
Yeah.
And the people who don't get it are going to look at you like you're crazy.
And some people would say that maybe he would be in the honorable mentions for a lot of people instead of being on the list. But in the case of how much talk radio work he did, and how much, you know, television work and presentations on television he did, I think it's fine to have him there. I mean, yeah. I like I told you before, I would have my list be a little bit different, but that's you know, that's fine, because this isn't really just my list here.
But the reason that I have him at 4 is because I actually watched some of his show on YouTube recently.
Yeah,
finally for the first time, and I'm like, his show was actually good. Especially when he had his regular Norm Macdonald on, which was one of his best friends.
And Norm's a legend in comedy and improv and stuff.
And everything in between.
Yeah.
And also legend at pissing off the right people, too.
And SNL and movies. Yeah.
Yeah. But with that being said, let's quickly get to what Prayer said in the chat here, which has nothing to do with what we're talking about. Crimson Desert for the win.
Yeah. He's a little stream bomber, you.
Yes, he is. Hey, Prayer.
Yeah.
So with that being said, let me type in the next name in the search here, which is a guy who is still going strong on late night talk shows right now. Just need to spell his name right. There we go. A gentleman whom we used to watch his old show, like we have watched Friday Night Tights over the years. So at number 3, a gentleman where I feel you watching the show, it doesn't matter who the guest is on, unless it's a Purple Hair Freak, which he has had on before, because he likes talking to whoever, regardless of their opinion. I'm talking about the one and the only. Too many buttons to push. Greg Gutfeld. We used to watch Red Eye, like at the stroke of midnight or whatever time it was when it came on. Actually, I think it was like 2 a.m, right?
Depending on what zone you were in, but
we were in Central at the time.
Yeah. Mm-hmm.
So
it was late.
Like
it was very late. It was after the late night, essentially.
Yeah, it was like into the morning,
which is why they called it Red Eye.
Yeah,
it's an overnight program, basically.
which is also where we first got introduced to Kat Timpf as well, even though that wasn't her name at the time.
The original Red Eye program was the first show that actually broke through in the news media comedy realm.
Yeah.
You had a lot of people trying to get into that, but they basically pioneered with the original Red Eye show. They basically pioneered the late night newsroom comedy that is now the staple of the current show, the Greg Gutfeld show. And it's basically his shtick. It's like his whole bit is that late night news television, sort of like infotainment comedy a little bit, but mostly political zingers. And I think that he's worth mentioning in this sphere as like the king of that sphere. There's been nobody who's done better in that entire in that realm of like newsy sort of late night comedy talk shows. There's nobody that's done better than Greg.
And Per's got a message for you there.
I know, I saw it. He's being an ass.
Yeah.
He's always being an ass.
But he's being the right kind of ass.
Yeah.
But yeah, it sounds to me like you're saying that Red Eye paved the way for the Gutfeld show then.
Well, yeah, obviously the current Gutfeld show is impossible if you didn't have people
Red Eye.
basically member burying Red Eye.
Yeah.
The show, I mean, don't take this the wrong way, but I think the current Gutfeld show is beneath the quality of the original Red Eye.
That's fair.
Because the cast is too similar. It kind of reminds me, like, you remember he also did the 5, right? He still does the 5.
Yeah, he still does.
Which, was a daytime fill-in where he was the only one being funny. He is the only one that's being funny on the 5.
And also, fun fact, the 5 was created to replace the time slot that Glenn Beck was in for Fox News. For that brief time that he was there.
But the inclusion of Greg was basically like, I guess the execs were sitting around going, all right, who do we have? Who can we put on this show? And they're like, well, Greg's around. He's not doing anything during the day. Basically what they said. And so we can say a lot of things about Greg's career, but I personally think that just like with some other entertainers, they had their glory days and sometimes they stick around and do more. But I think that he's in like that late Emmett Smith era. You know what I mean? I think he's in like the era when he's already made his mark and he's just lingering.
Yeah, and considering how Fox News treats like certain people, I think it's only a matter of time before they just shit can the Gutfeld show and just fire Greg into the sun.
I mean, for its time slot and for what it is, it still does dominate the ratings.
Yeah. It's the #1 late night talk show on TV at this point, which is not saying much because there's no competition.
Which is a bit like being the MVP in a handicapped football game.
So therefore, I feel that the Gutfeld show is propping up Fox News's shrinking audience, and the day that they can the Gutfeld show, can Greg Gutfeld, their viewership is going to go straight into the toilet.
Yeah, Fox isn't going to have a late night viewership at all if they lose the Gutfeld show.
And they'll even lose people who watch during the day because they were watching Greg at night. And like for me, the only reason I watch anything on Fox News is only one show, and that's Gutfeld. And if that goes away, I ain't watching Fox News ever again.
They don't really have a reason to send him away yet. And I personally think he's probably going to be on the show until he decides to quit.
I hope that's the case.
I'm just saying that would be my assumption, and it's because he's kind of already earned his place there. I mean, he's going to be. If they did try to send him packing, he'd be like, "Do you know who I am? Don't you know who I am?" That would be, understandably, that would be his mood, and I totally understand that he would feel that way if he does feel that way if that ever happened. but they can't afford to let him go. They wouldn't have anybody to put on at that hour. They don't have anybody funnier. They don't have any show program format that would get more audience members, and they don't have more return audience for any show on their entire network than that one. So if they cancel that, they might as well just fold the whole fucking network.
Yeah.
I mean, if they come out and say we're canceling every show, we're done here, Fox is folding. Like if they came out and said that, I'd be like, oh, okay. But if they fold just his show, I'd be like, why did the other one stick around?
Yeah. So
why do you have this other stuff on, but not him?
So before we get to number 2, Brer has something to tell you.
Yeah.
On there.
Yeah.
Do you want to read it?
Yeah. Mm-hmm. Yeah, no, I've read it.
Okay.
Yeah.
Your thoughts on that?
Oh well, no, the drill boss is of that game is challenging, but it's a little tricky, but I wouldn't say he's anywhere near as difficult as some of the other stuff you're gonna face later.
So on that note, at number 2, stand-up comedian turned late night talk show host turns stand-up comedian, voice actor in the movie Brave, and among other things, the one and only. And in my opinion, as far as modern day entertaining talk show hosts go, I did not I didn't miss watching a single episode of this guy on with his show, as I assume that nor didn't miss a single one either because he was there too. I'm talking about the one and only Craig Ferguson.
Yep. The Late Late Show.
Yeah.
On CBS.
Which was, at the time, in my opinion, dare I say it, well, he is at number 2 for a reason, better than Jay Leno, as far as I'm concerned.
It was definitely, without any honest debatability, the best show of the 20 teens in late night.
Mm-hmm.
And I say that's beyond debate. That is beyond debate. What isn't beyond debate is his position among all late night hosts. That we would say, okay, one of the greats for sure.
Mm-hmm.
Not the greatest, but one of the greats. His show was borderline unmissable if you liked funny late night programming
Number 2.
It was running. And frankly, even old clips of it are still very gripping and very intriguing and very important.
Even though we've watched every episode, you can finding old episodes on YouTube and watching is still as entertaining, still as funny as the first time watching it.
And sure, and the thing that carries the whole enchilada with all of that is that Craig was a better late night host than he even was a stand-up comedian.
Mm-hmm.
And then he also did acting too, but his calling and his forte was definitely the Johnny Carson style late night show.
And he was also on, and he was also part of the Drew Carey comedy troupe because he was on the Drew Carey show as well.
And that's where he got his start in comedy.
Yeah.
Because of Drew Carey. So I mean, and we could thank Drew for many things.
Thank you, Drew.
many stars of comedy and screen. Drew Carey, thank you. But Craig Ferguson was pound for pound the funniest late night show host of all time. And when we say funniest, I mean, just funniest, not most popular, not most streamed, not most watched, not
the most paid, entertaining.
The funniest show ever put on late night television.
Well, the second.
I'm just saying. And I'm not talking best because we'll get into best shortly here.
Best and most entertaining.
I'm talking it was relatively short-lived.
Yeah.
But it was hilarious.
Mm-hmm.
It was fall on the floor hilarious at times.
Mm-hmm.
And you can't say that about almost anybody else.
No, you can't.
And truly an enjoyable watch almost nightly.
The closest person in the modern day that I could compare Craig Ferguson to would be Cat Turd. In the litter box with Jules and Cat Turd.
I considered the replacement of Craig with James Corden to be one of the greatest fuck-ups in late night history.
Mm-hmm.
I've never liked Corden ever, not
Mhm.
one damn day.
Yeah.
And Craig was in another galaxy of funny. And I could never understand, other than the execs being the assholes they are, I could never understand why it was worthwhile to send Craig packing and put James in. I was like, this is dumb. I'm not even going to watch it. I'm not going to watch a single episode of his show.
Mm-hmm.
I'm like, I'm either going to have Craig or I'm going to have nothing. And I was fine with that because he didn't deserve to be sent packing and replaced with Corden. It was stupid.
Mm-hmm.
I remember feeling so like actually pissed off at the network at CBS for doing that. And I consider it to be the dumbest late night fucking move ever of all time.
Yeah.
I don't know what to compare it to. It'd be like if you took out Jay Leno and put in like I don't know, you put in like someone who nobody even likes. You know what I mean?
Stephen Colbert. Oh wait, they did that.
I'm just saying, like if they put in Andy Kaufman instead of Jay Leno, you know what I mean?
Yeah.
That would have been the equivalent. I mean, if they, I mean, you know, Kaufman had his own thing, and I don't mean to shit all over Andy Kaufman, but it would be the equivalent of putting Andy Kaufman in Jay Leno's slot. It would just be like an absolute shit post, and that's what James Corden replacing Craig Ferguson was.
Yeah.
Just another shit post.
So with that being said, at number one, the king of late nights. If we had been alive during his era, I'm certain that we would have watched literally every episode like we did with Craig Ferguson.
Yeah.
But we weren't. But our mom was.
Sure, he had already retired by the time I was born. So
I'm pretty sure he was about to retire by the time that I was. Because he was still barely on at that point.
Yeah.
But I was too young to give a shit.
Yeah.
But we give a shit now. And as Tom McDonald said in his love song to Eminem, but I'm here now. Johnny Carson, the king of late night, the king of comedy, maybe.
For a very long time, his show, and when I say I'm talking 40 years.
Yeah.
For 40 years, his show was the undisputed late night king show.
Oh, yeah.
His show was where everyone wanted to be seen. Everyone wanted to get an interview. Everybody wanted to have a stand-up spot. Many careers started on Carson.
Yeah.
Many careers were boosted by Carson. Including Jay Leno himself.
Yeah. Johnny Carson was on so long that even Jeff Dunham did a comedy spot on the Tonight Show.
Pretty much almost everybody of the golden era of stand-up comedy did Carson to start with.
Bill Engvall, Jeff Foxworthy.
Rodney Dangerfield. I mean, the list is long.
Absolutely.
And so his show
and then
was
also all the guests, the who's who of Hollywood, and also the who isn't of Hollywood and comedy as well was also on there.
Yes, every kind of funny, interesting, entertaining character and actor, politicians, singers, just celebrities of every stripe. Everyone notable wanted to be on Carson.
Yeah.
And so it was the gold standard for American cultural late night, and it will always be that. Nothing will ever top it. There's no way it ever could.
And this was also back when in entertainment where the host might have been a complete liberal, but didn't interject that into their art.
Johnny was very, very far to the left, politically speaking.
Yeah,
but Johnny made a very specific point about, look, I'm not here to tell anybody anything. I'm here to make you laugh. If I don't make you laugh, no matter what your political bend is, if I don't make you laugh, I failed. That was what his attitude was.
Yeah.
I'm not here to lecture you make you feel bad, tell you what I believe. I'm here to make you laugh. If I can make you laugh, I win. You win, we both win. That's the whole game. And so that's what he always tried to do. He was trying to make the conservative audience laugh, the liberal audience laugh, everybody laugh.
Yeah.
And that's what he was always doing. And he was, you know, most of the time, in fact, vast majority of the time, very cordial with everyone. And he always liked to be the straight man. He always liked to be the guy who was like, unless you knew, you couldn't tell. Unless you already knew, you couldn't tell. That was his game.
Mm-hmm.
And honestly, he is the Johnny Carson show, and Johnny Carson are the a standard for what a late night program is supposed to be.
Yeah, kind of like the standard for a halftime show is Prince.
Sure. Well, we could say that too. Yeah.
Good luck chasing that because you ain't catching it.
Basically, if you wanted almost about 90% of all of the most important moments in late night show history of all the late night show hosts, the most important moments, 9 out of 10 of them were on Johnny's show.
Mm-hmm.
So I think that gets the point across pretty thoroughly.
Absolutely.
The rest of the entire history of late night is entirely beneath his show.
Yeah.
So there's no way we could ever put anyone above him in this category.
Johnny Carson, as far as levels of entertainment compared to any other talk show of all time, can be summed up with this, I think.
Do not come.
I'm gonna come.
And when you say that, and if you watch the episode where Johnny Carson is covered in shaving cream or whipped cream or whatever it is, yeah. At that point.
And like we always talk about, you know, the couple of different successful running gags or running bits on, like, say, Jay Leno's show, or the successful couple of running bits on Craig's show. Johnny had a list of running gags that were all hilarious.
Mm-hmm.
You know,
as opposed to the modern talk shows that with the hosts that are going to be disappearing soon, can be summed up with simply,
Brother, what's that? What's that, brother?
am I wrong?
Yeah, no, I definitely agree with that as a summary of the current late night.
But the reason that the shitty talk show hosts have been on for as long as they have today, this is for the network executives that didn't want to do anything about it.
They don't know what the fuck they're doing. Do you understand that?
Yeah, today's late night executives don't know what is funny. They really don't. And they're too politically possessed to even care at this point.
Yeah. They all have TDS way the hell too bad. But either way, anytime you mention Trump, they get all butthurt. And then we have to simply go,
Gotcha, bitch!
Yeah, the thing about it is that Johnny was always the class act in comedy and in late night. And as far as talk shows go, yes. If a person were to try to have a sort of playlist of talk shows, they would not be honest to exclude Johnny. Just flat out, you couldn't. Far too many important celebrities, far too many important moments, far too much funniness, far too much long-running success, massive audience, records for decades, people tuning in religiously, the deadpan comedy, the stand-up routines, the comedians that careers were launched by the show. I mean, the sheer amount of cultural impact is indescribable. You can't understate how much cultural impact his show had. His show was central to Americana for decades.
Oh yeah.
So it's definitely worthy of number one on this.
So, with that being said, that's our top 10 list of talk show hosts as far as we're concerned at this point in time. The next time we do a top 10 list will be the top 10 pod or top whatever podcasts as far as we're concerned here in the underground.
Yeah. Which
And
might
I
end up being a longer list because there's a lot more of them.
And I think what you and I should do there is probably do our own separate lists and compare them.
Now, the one thing I did want to mention, if we're able to, before we move off of this entire podcast here, is there's sort of a list of people that are definitely in the talk show realm and were definitely popular, but I just don't have any use for them. Like say for instance, Springer's show, or like say Rosie O'Donnell's show, or Maury's show for the most part. I mean, it's worth culturally mentioning, but and then there's Oprah, obviously, but all of these shows are just not my bag and never were. So I wasn't interested in including them on in this conversation either. But they're sort of in the unmentioned and deservedly so, if you ask me, category.
Yeah, that's because
They don't know what the fuck they're doing. Do you understand that?
Yeah.
I had to play that clip because you said Rosie O'Donnell.
Uh-huh. Or Ricky Lake. I mean, there's a long list of people who did talk shows
Yeah.
that I just don't have any. I don't have any use for.
And yeah, I know. I saw the list and it was based on talk shows across the entire world. I'm like, I don't know who the fuck 99% of these people are.
Yeah.
But that's where I got most of the names for my note card list here. And then Nord wrote some in there too. Oh, with that being said, the next time we'll be doing Breaking Rocks, we'll be getting back to some new stuff. Because there's another clip for a bug that I posted to Drew Dad Games for WWE 2K26. It's the same bug because 2K didn't fucking fix it with their most recent patch. I don't know if they ever will, because if they don't, then it's going to absolutely ruin playing their most recent wrestling game in the long term for me entirely. Because if I can't delete custom images, I can't download more stuff to do things with it. What's the point?
Yep.
At that point. And then that point, I'll probably be swearing off wrestling video games for the rest of my life at that point then, because of them. But if that's the case, that'll just give me more time to play Crimson Desert then. At that point.
Which I am perfectly willing to do a review of.
Yeah, we can do that on an episode of Breaking Rocks, and actually probably devote its own video separate from Breaking Rocks for that soon, even. And then at that point, we can have Prayer on there with us, assuming he's even still in the chat there.
Well, he's probably playing something now.
Yeah, he's probably playing with himself.
Yeah, he's playing with himself again. He always does.
Yeah.
Spends most of his time playing with himself. Or playing with other people, and he should really avoid that.
Yeah.
It's a trap.
Well, I either that or
I'm thankful that Crimson Desert is a one-player game.
yeah.
Let's put it that way.
Mm-hmm. Because Prayer will be off doing something, you'll be doing something, and I'll be trying to figure out how to get in the castle still.
Because I won't get anything, if it's a multiplayer, I won't get anything done besides what he wants us to get done. I won't get anything done on my end.
And then and like I said, you guys will be off over there, and I'll be still figuring out how to get in the castle, which is where I'm still at in the game right now. Which I guess is kind of close to the beginning, right?
Oh, yeah. Mm-hmm.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, with me trying to figure out what to do in it, I guess that could be summed up like this.
You serious?
That is my reaction to you saying you don't know what to do. I'm like, brother, there is a million things to do in that game.
Well, I'm trying to do this one thing, but the game won't let me.
No, I know. I told you how to do it too, though.
I know. I'll get to that at some point.
And the game is challenging. It really is. It's a challenging game, and I have a lot to say about it, and I intend to save most of what I have to say about it for later. But it's a challenging game. It really is. It's a fantastic game.
Is it as challenging as, say, changing a horseshoe on a horse?
Let's see what this sign says. Valentine Emerald Ranch is further this way, I guess. Well, let's take a look at the body. Well, he's dead.
Yes, the game is like that sometimes, yes.
Well, either way. Before we get off, my last message to WWE 2K is the same as it always is.
Stop breaking the law, asshole!
And the same thing goes for the rest of the gaming industry that releases broken games for 150, 60, 70, 80, whatever dollars.
Mm-hmm.
Releasing unplayable games for any amount of money.
I kind of wish I could get. I kind of wish I could get a clip of Jim Carrey yelling in the phone, "Test your shit,
asshole."
Play test your fucking games, asshole.
Kind of like this. Test your games, motherfucker.
Yeah, I mean, I don't know what possessed them to release games without play testing them, but it's sad. It's sad and stupid.
Yeah. So as it is, last I was aware, Matt Morse was live. So go check out Matt Morse TV for your news and whatnot, which is a good idea to end our stream on, showing a little bit of what he's doing.
Yep.
By way of Twitch. So let me do this. We'll tune in a little bit on here to Matt Morse. And by the way, he's also on YouTube, so you could go subscribe to him there. You can follow him on Twitch as well, and follow him on Rumble as well.
It's all related, as many of you know. President Trump said this about NATO earlier this morning.
The ones that aren't helping are NATO. You know, NATO said to me, "No, we'll send somebody as soon as it's over." I said, "That's not really. You know, we don't need them.
No,
We'll never need them."
Espa his best friend, is live too.
Because they're a paper tiger.
Mhm.
But I've said that. By the way, I've said that for a long time. Before I was in politics, I used to say
Yep,
that.
Basman's always streaming.
Politics, but
Always
I
a worthy stream
I've
watch.
enjoyed it, and I like
Yeah.
watching things. So I always said they were a paper tiger.
All right,
And
well, we
Europe,
will,
you know, Europe has to straighten themselves out between energy and immigration. They have to straighten themselves out, or they're not going to have a Europe anymore.
Well, this is actually a very
Well, if you want to keep
pertinent
streaming with
idea,
this, I
pertinent
can
point
dip
that
out. I
President
mean,
Trump just brought up.
Well,
Europe
I
needs to
can end it
straighten
here,
themselves
so
out between
let
energy
me
and
just
immigration.
mute
It's all
him real
related.
quick.
Might
at this
it be
point, we have a false title if we're going to show Matt Morse's stream.
Well, yeah. Well, we're just ending with him, so
Yeah.
go follow Matt Morris on Twitch, subscribe to him on YouTube, and follow him on Rumble. You can also find him on X as well, and also his news page. I can't remember what it's called right now, but I'm sure you'll be able to find it. With that being said, thank you guys for watching. Hit the like on your way out. Subscribe for more content like this. Not necessarily with Matt at the end of everything, but you get the idea. Be safe, be well, God bless, and we'll see you guys in the next one. Hopefully that's more about news than the list stuff. Bye, guys.
I will never say I'm sorry, I ain't taking nothing back. I don't care if I offend you.